Hi, in this case study, I want to talk about selling MRO stuff to a big factory where historically the distribution company couldn't get in the door. The guy would not just blow him off because he was happy for 27 years buying everything from his same three buddies. And so I thought, well, what's the risk of going around this guy? It's zero. So first I did a deep dive information thing. It turns out that this is a huge company town. This was the company in the big company town. And so I went over to the local newspaper and spent, I don't know, 20 hours going on microfiche. This was in the old days, through all kinds of articles on these guys, and got a lot of interesting information. Then I said to everybody at the company, who knows somebody who works at a big corporation here in town? Everybody had a cousin or a brother or somebody. And it didn't take long for me to basically be taking a tour through their central distribution center, where I saw three United Auto Workers per lift truck pushing stuff around very slowly, realizing this company was buying stuff direct from factories to create the biggest internal distribution company that was the most inefficient thing you ever saw, when I could do the same stuff for them a lot less. Um, so when I went out to call on this buyer, I had an elaborate advanced agenda I'd worked up. I typed up all the questions and I basically said, look, you can answer them generally, specifically, or not at all. You may say, look, this is none of your business. If I find you snooping around this particular area of the company to find out what's going on there, I'll nail your kneecaps to the floor, type of thing. And to make a long story short, in an hour and 15 minutes, I got so much more information out of this recalcitrant, difficult buyer than anybody else have probably ever had. And buried in there, I had a pitch on how they could not buy 100,000 pounds of copy paper a month into central warehouse and then get it out to their remote locations internally, but actually have me deliver it right to the place. But at the same time, I started a top-down letter campaign, and which we'll look at in the next case study. Now, it's also possible that you could mimic security hackers. When people think about how do people get into our corporate, intranet, compromise us in some way, they put in all this elaborate stuff, and then they hire hackers to see if they can get in the system, and they get in a minute and a half because they call up operators and ask to be shipped to some department, and then they just act like they're employees working there, and they say, by the way, what's the password, whatever, and people just give out the password to people around the place, or who they think are around the place. Um, so if you called a company and said, hey, do you have our company directory? I'm doing a productivity survey project, which is true. If anybody says, who is this? You say, oh, this is Bruce in productivity operations, because that's what I'm trying to do for this customer. And maybe I can sell them stuff in the shipping department or the office manager, head of maintenance, or whatever. And so I one hook or crook, I'm getting their name and a phone number, extension number, so I call up to sort of see what's going on with the consumption of packaging tape or copy paper or towels and tissue and Jansan, in the factory. And you get to, shipping, and, Jimmy picks it up and says, hey, shipping. And I say, hey, who have I got here? Oh, well, it's Jimmy. Well, it's not the head of shipping. I say, well, Jimmy, what kind of tape machines do we have out there? Well, in pre-pack or post-pack? Well, let's start with post-pack. And you can get 10 minutes of information and find machines are broken and they have this kind of gummed up issue, problems that in theory we could solve. And again, if anybody asks, say, oh, I'm just Bruce in productivity ops. And some people say, well, I have a real concern with that. But here is the moral of the story. Let's just jump right here. Closed accounts have the most waste potential to solve. The incumbents who enjoy the business already can't or won't match your next level resource investment. In other words, if our total team is focusing on deep dive things, agendas, top down stuff, we'll come and do an audit, all these things. An independent sales guy from a competitor just isn't even going to get it, and or be able to get the resources to match us, because they don't even know where they're going with. They don't have the vision to begin with. And what we're really doing is we're all about saving accounts from their own bad habits. In other words, if there is internal laziness, feather bedding, or politics, in the sense that I am loyal to these guys because they're loyal to me, that's called I enjoy kickbacks one form or another, then that allows inefficiencies to fester. If we're really about the best economic solution, we're not pulling any fast ones here. We're talking about proven math, supply chain, bottom line, we're going to help your business grow kind of thing. What's so bad about that? And then when we realize, when we put time or over time into math. So instead of thinking about just what's the net present value of the sales and margin and net profit we could get out of this account, to if we're dealing with a massive gazelle who not only is big today, but they're growing 15% a year compounded annually, and we could make 15% more profits compounded over the next 10 years, bring that back to the present value. The net present value of these huge gazelles is off the charts. It's almost like you say, why am I bothering with 99% of my other accounts? They just are too small, growing, going nowhere. I can't afford not to overinvest this kind of effort and even take these risks for that kind of a prize. So let's move on to the sequel to this particular slide. Thank you.